It was a quiet, ordinary night on July 7th, 2013, when 27-year-old Daniel Carter was driving home along an isolated highway in Arizona. The road was empty, surrounded by nothing but miles of open desert. He had taken this route countless times before, but something about this night felt different. The air was unusually heavy, thick with an unexplainable tension. As Daniel checked the time, 2:43 a.m., his car radio crackled with static. Then, a faint whisper broke through the noise. It wasn't music. It wasn't a station. It was a voice. Not alone. Not alone. Not alone. Before Daniel could react, his headlights flickered, his engine sputtered, and then everything went black. He was gone. The next morning, authorities found his car on the side of the road. The engine was still running, the driver's door left wide open, as if he had stepped out for just a moment. But Daniel was nowhere to be seen. There were no footprints leading away, no signs of a struggle. His wallet, phone, and keys were still inside, untouched. It was as if he had simply evaporated into thin air. As news of his disappearance spread, search teams flooded the area. Helicopters circled the desert, search dogs combed through every inch of the terrain, and volunteers worked tirelessly to find any clue. But there was nothing. No calls, no signals, no explanation. For 3 days, Daniel Carter was gone from this world. Then on the 4th day, something impossible happened. At 4:17 a.m., a gas station security camera captured a lone figure stumbling in from the darkness, barefoot, his clothes ripped and covered in dust. It was Daniel. His face was blank, his skin pale, his eyes filled with something that could only be described as terror. The gas station clerk, who was the first to see him, later recalled that Daniel didn't speak at first. He simply stood, there, trembling, as if he wasn't even sure he was back in reality. When authorities arrived, they immediately noticed something strange. Daniel's body was covered in bizarre circular burns, almost as if he had been marked. His heart rate was erratic. His pupils were dilated beyond normal. Doctors who examined him were baffled. His blood work showed anomalies that science couldn't explain. For hours, Daniel refused to talk. Then, when he finally spoke, his words sent chills down everyone's spine. "They took me, but they weren't human." At first, many thought he was delirious, suffering from trauma. But as he slowly recounted his experience, it became clear. Whatever had happened to him, it was something beyond human comprehension. He described a blinding white light swallowing the sky, then an overwhelming feeling of weightlessness. He remembered floating as if his body had no control. The next thing he knew, he was inside a cold, metallic room. Strange, humanoid figures stood around him, tall, slender, with large, piercing black eyes. He couldn't move. He couldn't scream. And then, the experiments began. Daniel claimed that they opened him up without cutting him. He felt them inside his mind, pulling apart his memories, scanning through his thoughts as if he were nothing more than a machine. They didn't speak with words, but with images. Visions of distant planets, enormous structures floating in space, and something even more terrifying. "They're watching us," Daniel whispered. "They've always been watching us." He described a presence, something beyond just these beings. Something ancient, something that had been observing humanity for centuries, and then, just as suddenly as he had vanished, they sent him back. He didn't remember how, he didn't remember why. Only that one message kept repeating in his head. Not alone, not alone, not alone. Many dismissed Daniel's story as the ramblings of a traumatized mind. But then the real evidence surfaced. His medical reports showed an increase in an unknown protein in his blood, something never seen in any human being before. The burns on his body weren't from fire or radiation, but from something no doctor could identify. And the most disturbing part? His phone, which had been in the abandoned car, still had one last recorded entry, a 3-second audio file of high-pitched static. But when analyzed at a deeper frequency, something else was uncovered. A voice, faint, distorted, whispering, not alone. What really happened to Daniel Carter during those missing 3 days? Where did he go? And more importantly, was he ever truly alone?